The meeting is live, Mr. Allison.
Welcome everybody to the Williamsport City Council meeting. It's Thursday, April 29th, 2021, 7:03 p.m. and we're meeting remotely again tonight. Before we get into the agenda, I have a few announcements to make. We had a executive session before our regular meeting tonight to discuss legal issues related to litigation. We were informed right before the meeting started from the captioning company that they don't have a captioner available tonight. So it was far too late for us to come up with an alternative. So we won't have captioning tonight. And Councilman Banks is excused tonight. He let me know ahead of time that he would not be able to make it. So we have 6 council people here tonight. Let's get into the regular agenda. Item 1 is approval of city council minutes dated 4/15/21. Is there a motion and a second from council?
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any corrections or questions from council members? Hearing none, Mrs. Frank on the motion, please.
Mr. Yoder,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Allison.
Yes. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Mrs. Frank. Item 2, limited courtesy of the floor. We've had no requests tonight. I'm going to move to item 14 on our agenda. Move that up. And would you read that in short form, please, Mrs. Frank?
Resolution authorizing the execution of a 5-year service agreement between Structure Care and River Valley Transit.
Thank you, Mrs. Frank. Is there a motion and a second?
So move. Second.
There's a motion and a second. Mr. Winder, welcome.
Good evening. This is a resolution to authorize an execution of a 5-year service agreement between Structure Care and River Valley Transit. This is in reference to the Church Street parking deck. The Church Street parking deck is made of steel and concrete and needs to be inspected on an annual basis. To the best of our knowledge here, it has not been inspected since it was built. Firm that can cover what Structure Care is going to cover, which would be the inspection, some maintenance, training on maintenance for our individuals here. If somebody would, hit the structure with a vehicle or something major would happen, they would come out right away to do an inspection on site. That would be covered under this. A service like this is very complicated to find a one-stop shop. The other thing I should say is Structure Care is a sister company of High Steel, which is a local business. This is in the amount of $17,800. There is a representative from Structure Care, Mr. Moyer, on this with us. This was reviewed by finance and passed on with a positive recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Winder. Councilwoman Mealy was reviewed in finance.
This item was reviewed in finance, President Allison, and forwarded with positive recommendations. That is the relative no-brainer. The funding for this item will be coming out of revenue from the deck, not coming out of RGC's pocket, not coming out of the city's pocket. And obviously it only makes sense from both the liability perspective, from the safety perspective, and just generally speaking out of the best interest in the maintenance of the structure for decades to come, to make certain that it is inspected and that it is cared for. So if we are not in a position to do that in-house, then it seems only sensible for us to contact with someone who is. That said, as I said, it was forwarded with positive recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. That it was a little muffled, Liz. We could make most of it out, but thank you.
I apologize. I'll try and do better. I'm not sure why I'm muffled.
Yeah.
But I'll see what I can do. Thanks.
Good, thank you. Other members, Bonnie, Sister, Councilwoman Katz.
Yes, I do have a question. This is for Jill Nagy. I thought with what we're doing, what we're trying to strive for is to separate River Valley from all the other entities. And this would be with the parking deck, and this would be under the parking authority.
That would possibly be in the future, Mrs. Katz. Currently, River Valley Transit owns the Church Street parking deck.
Okay, they do own, okay, that is owned by them.
Yes.
And is River Valley, was that part of, is this how we're going to be moving? Liz, could you please mute because we can't hear. Is this going to be, because this is a 5-year contract, and is River Valley going to maintain and take care of Church Street for the next 5 years?
As of this point, the federal obligation mandates that River Valley take care of it. So what we'll be doing is having to work through some agreements with the parking authority with regard to any revenue or things of that nature moving forward. But we do have the federal obligation for maintenance.
Okay, just wanted to double check with this since where we're headed and the directions we're heading.
Yep.
Mr. Yoder, anything else from finance? No, other questions from other council members? Okay, hearing or seeing none. Mrs. Frank, on that motion, please.
Mr. Yoder,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
I'm sorry, yes.
Ms. Neely, Mr. Allison,
You're muted, Liz. Okay. Yes. Motion carries 5-0. You got it?
Yeah, I think
Is that a yes vote?
that was an unequivocal yes vote from a very confused person trying to work with some headphones. Sorry, Randy.
That's okay. Thank you. Okay, motion passes 6-0. We'll move back up to item 3, and actually we're going to bundle items 3, 4, and 5 if there's a motion to do that.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we open the floor for items 3, 4, and 5 on the agenda.
Second.
Excuse me, one second. Tom Moyer here from Structure Care. I just want to ensure before I hop off the city council meeting, there's no further questions from me about Structure Care High, anything that I can answer at this time before I hop off?
No, Mr. Moyer, I'm sorry I didn't check in with you before we moved on, but
No, not a problem. Like I said, I just wanted to hop on, answer any questions that there may be about Structure Care, what we do, and specifically about the service agreement, if there is any. But if there's not, I can certainly hop off.
Are there any questions from council on those things?
I don't have any.
Okay.
And thank you, Mr. Moyer, for at least, being here tonight.
Not a problem. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Take care. Okay, we have a motion and a second on items 3, 4, and 5, which are, we've covered those in depth. This is the second and final reading of these 3 ordinances. Mr. Girardi, do you have anything more to add?
No, the only thing I'd like to add is when you're done, at the very last sheet is how the article will be laid out for I believe part 17 will be laid out in the articles, which cleans everything up and puts it in the proper area. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Girardi. Anything else from council tonight on these 3? Seeing nothing, Mrs. Frank on the motion, please.
Mr. Yoder,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
yes.
Mr. Allison.
Yes, Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Mrs. Frank. We'll move down
Thank
to,
you, council.
thank you, Mr. Girardi. Good work on all these ordinances, and I know you have more to do.
Yeah, and just to add to that is that's what I've been working on for the longest time, and hopefully in a couple months I'll present to council and the mayor. Basically, the ordinances we have, all 188 articles. The last time they were updated, if they've been updated or revised, any new articles that were going to be presented, and actually who enforces them. And the last time it was updated by a date. So it'll probably be a couple months. I'm real close to finishing it up. I've been working, like I said, it's 188 articles, and there's a lot of them. So, but it does explain to you, it's sort of like a cheat sheet. If you need to know certain article and who enforces it, you know who's enforcing it.
Mhm.
So just want to let the council know.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. We'll move to item 6. Mrs. Frank, in the short form, please.
A resolution agreement between the City of Williamsport and Penn College of Technology.
Thank you, Mrs. Frank. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Tonight we have the mayor addressing this, and John Markley is with us as well. Good. Welcome.
Sure,
John.
I'll just go ahead and hand it right off to Mr. Markley. This
Okay.
general resolution, but Mr. Markley can speak in depth about the Veterans Memorial Park and what Penn College does for us. So, Mr. Markley.
Thank you, Mayor. You have the floor, Mr. Markley.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council President, Vice President, Council members. This is a resolutions agreement of off-campus project for the Pennsylvania College of Technology. We turn this in every year so we can have the students and the instructors continue to work at the Veterans Memorial Park. We are in the process of continuing to work up there. We're going to remove all the south side in front of the Korean War Monument and the Vietnam Monument because the ramp is too steep. We'll drop it down to handicap accessibility. That way the whole park is handicap accessible. When the college students come back in the fall, they'll start hoping the plane is in sight. And this project here for them will continue the sidewalk out around the plane and hope we can tie it in with the Gold Star Monument, which the dedication day for that is September the 19th of this year. I'll be glad to answer any questions you have.
And this was reviewed in Public Works, I believe.
Correct. Councilwoman Katz.
Yes. First of all, let's acknowledge all the hard work that John Markley is doing with our Memorial Park. The goal is, and I think we're almost there, if not there already, that it's the best memorial park in the state at this point. I would like to talk about the Penn College students, how much work and effort the college has put into this. And one of the things that John makes sure is that everybody is thanked profusely for all the work that they do. In fact, bricks are made with their individual names on there and placed in the park itself, so people can see who has worked on everything. And let's not also forget that the bricks are still for sale. This is how this project does get funded. There's so much up there. If people have not seen what is done up there, you have got to see. It is incredible, everything that has been done. But Penn College has done an incredible amount of work for John. And not only does Penn College, but there's so many other businesses in the area that has donated their supplies, their time, and so many other things to make sure that our park up there, Veterans Memorial Park, is absolutely the most beautiful place to go. I mean, it's even a place to just go and sit and meditate at this point. It's so beautiful. So I have nothing else to add. I just think it's commendable, everything that John Markley has done with this, and his committee. His committee has worked tirelessly to bring everything to fruition there. And also, we do have to thank the county. The county has put quite a bit of money into this park also for you. And let's not forget that also. They've used Act 13 money to make sure that some of the monuments that are placed up there to make everything, everybody feels that they are incorporated and welcomed up there. So I have nothing else to say.
I would like to say that we've had 117 students work on this project and 4 instructors over the last 3 years, and done an outstanding job, like Bonnie said, for us. We have Memorial Day service coming up on May the 29th at 11 o'clock in the morning. We have our pamphlet ready to go. I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not, but it's a beautiful pamphlet that we've been working on for opening day ceremonies. We're going to dedicate the north wall, the North Memorial Wall is what we're calling it. And that's where the other 6 new monuments are, along with our Memorial Day services up there. We're hoping to have handicap accessible for vehicles to bring people closer to us. But I want to keep in mind, because I've been reading the paper about handicap accessible parks and everything. I got to let you know that that park is handicap accessible, all of it. The parking, the porta pot, everything's handicap accessible. So I just want everybody to keep that in mind too. I don't have anything else. Just looking forward to continue to work up there. I know I'm a pain, Mayor. I know I get streets and parks. I get them when they're busy, but I need their help to keep the things moving. I appreciate Adam and Streets and Parks when they do help me. I really do. Thank you so much.
You're quite welcome, John. We thank you. Mr. Pelisi has his hand up.
Yeah, Mr. Markley, again, thank you for everything that you guys are doing up there. It is a beautiful park. I was just wondering if you could tell for everybody here and then everybody that may be at home watching or listening, if they would like to sponsor the construction of the park through the purchase of a brick or something like that. Could you tell us how to do that, please?
Yes, we have forms up City Hall. We have forms at Streets and Parks Department. I believe there's some at the River Valley Transit. If not, Adam, let me know and I'll see to it I have them there. We have a mailbox up at the park right by the M60 tank. Inside there is a forms that you can fill out and buy a brick or give a donation. We are just now receiving donations for the A6 Intruder. The A6 Intruder, we hope, is being painted in the middle of May, beginning of June. We're working on, Tony Visco's working on the slab of cement for it to set on for up there. And that plane will then be moved where it's at over towards the tank, the M60 tank. So yes, just send us a check. We need it. If you guys look at our minutes, we've spent over $100-some thousand, but that project, if we'd have went out the contract, we'd have spent over $350,000 easy for that project up there. And we're real pleased with all the companies and the people donating towards that park for the veterans. I don't like taking all the credit. Every name that's on that monuments up there, World War I, World War II, Korean, Vietnam, the global conflict piece, that's why I do it. Them people need to be recognized. When they go to see their name, the people that see that park, they recognize it and it's beautiful. My wife and I put down, I think I told the mayor 80 rolls of sod up there just a couple weeks ago. We took out a lot of mulch, put grass in. It looks so much pleasant. You need to go up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments from council members tonight? Well, I'm sure I can speak for everyone. We're very grateful for that. It's a gem in our city, and there's committed people that are like yourself, John, who are working on it constantly. Okay, hearing no other comments, Mrs. Frank on the motion, please.
Mr. Yoder,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Allison.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Mrs. Frank. We're going to go to item 7 next, and then I'm going to move item 10 up to right after 7. So, Mrs. Frank, item 7 in short form, please.
Resolution authorizing execution of a lease agreement between Williamsport Area Little League and the City of Williamsport.
Thank you, Mrs. Frank. Is there a motion in second, council?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Mr. Slaughter.
Yes, what you have before you, or good evening, Council President Allison, Vice President Millie, and members of council, administration. What you have before you is a lease agreement between the city and Williamsport Area Little League wall. A few years ago, we had this agreement in place. for Brandon Park with Wall. Then it kind of fell by the wayside, and Ron Deemer, who's on with us here tonight, is Wall's new president. He had approached me about resurrecting the lease and utilizing Brandon again via this agreement. Ron and other members of the board, Mike Fox and others, are doing a phenomenal job with Wall right now. And they just had the opening day last weekend. It was very well received, and they have a lot of energy. And they really want to, if you've seen the ball fields at Brandon Park, they're not in too great a shape here recently. So Ron approached me about, entering into this agreement again with Wall and getting those fields back to being utilized again by Little League, which of course is a great thing. So this was reviewed in Public Works. And as I said, we do have Ron here with us tonight as well.
Thank you, Miroslav. Thank you, Ron, for showing, being here tonight and all that you're doing. This was reviewed in Public Works. Mrs. Katz?
Yes, this was reviewed and it was passed with a positive recommendation. I think we're all very pleased and thankful that Mr. Ron Deemer is stepping up here to take on this project. It has been not used in 2 or 3 years, if I can recollect here, and it is in sad shape. And to realize that this is going to be brought back to a playable field for our kids, and this is what it really is. It's for our kids in the city. And Mr. Deemer said this is going to be at least a 5-year project when it's all said and done. And but while they're doing this, they're also going to be making the improvements. So that part of Brandon Park is going to start looking up to par where it was at one point. So again, I have no other questions. I think we're just very pleased that this is going to be started, a project being started in Brandon Park, and we're looking forward to seeing the end result. And I think a lot of kids are going to be looking forward to seeing the end result too.
Thank you, Mrs. Katz. Other comments from council members? Mr. Mackey had his hand up first.
I beat you by just a second, Councilman Politi.
That he did.
Yeah, I want to second what the mayor had to say. Ron, what you guys are doing is nothing short of amazing. If you haven't had a chance to watch the video of the opening day that they just had, it was really impressive. But it was also, for me, a little bit sad because I feel like it should have been happening at Brandon Park. Because this is Wall, this is Williamsport area Little League. We are the home of Little League baseball. And Brandon Park sits right in the center of the city. I mean, this should be the gem of Lycoming County. And I think this is the first step. I mean, I'm going to vote yes, obviously, on this lease agreement. But, I challenge the administration to, let me back up. I do not think it's Wall's responsibility to fix up this facility. Maintain it, absolutely. If they're going to use it, they should maintain it. But these fields, all 3 of them, are in really a state of disrepair. I know that they're being worked on a little bit now. And Ron, I think the idea is that you guys are actually in need of practice space, but and I think that's a good first step. But the city's going to be getting a fairly large sum of money here coming up with this CARES Act. And again, I know we don't exactly know the stipulations on how that money can be used. But I think it would be in the city's best interest to put some of that money towards Brandon Park and specifically the baseball fields. If I could just say, I was recently down in Virginia, and I went to a friend of mine's Little League, one of his kids' games, and I went to this facility down there, and it was state of the art. It was beautiful, and the whole time I'm sitting there, I'm thinking to myself, this is what Brandon Park should look like. Why? So for me, this is a great first step. And Ron, you and everybody else on the board, you guys are doing a fantastic job. And thank you so much for everything you've done so far. But like I said, I think this is only the first step. And I would really challenge the administration to really look at. I don't like to hear this is going to be a 5-year plan. this should be done. This needs to be done by next season, so that we're up and we're playing games in Brandon Park. The lights are on and there's that excitement. And you know, so anyway, I challenge the administration to really work with Wall and with Mr. Deemer and the rest of the board, because you know these folks are highly energized, and we need to capture some of that energy and bring back Little League baseball to Williamsport. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Councilman Mackey. Councilman Lizzie.
Thank you. No, I firmly, I agree with a lot of pretty much everything Mr. Mackey just said. Mr. Deemer, I've known you from way before this. I'm so happy to see that you're getting involved with this, because I've worked around you, I've worked with you. I know that you follow through with everything that you say you're going to do. You're extremely thorough in everything that you do. So knowing that you're taking charge of all this, I'm really happy to see. You know, I see you guys walking through the park, walking past the ball fields. I think the same thing that Mr. Mackey had thought, and I'm sure a lot of us had thought walking past those ball fields. You know, we got to do something about these ball fields. We got to get them fixed up. So I really am happy to see that. But Ron, is there anything that, you know, the community's able to do to come volunteer time or services, or, you know, just get over there and help paint or help fix fencing or anything like that, that we're all able to do to give you guys a hand?
Every single one of those things that you just hit, we could use help with. Like I said, as soon as this lease goes through and we can get there in the fields, we're going to get dumpsters in there, start getting some of the old stuff out. And like you had mentioned, we need practice space. So we're going to need volunteers to help us try to get these fields at least in the condition to where we can start practicing using what's, you know, what parts are deemed playable on it. The bigger major boys field has been deemed unplayable, just because it's been let go, as you guys had mentioned. But yeah, we could use bodies. I mean, obviously we're a nonprofit like all the rest, and we could use the monetary donations as well, but the bodies to help us do the painting, to help us work on the fields, mow grass, you know, weed eat, things of that nature. That's where the community could come in, because this is going to benefit us all.
Ron, if one of us, or if anybody for that matter, somebody in the community wanted to get involved and know how to help, how would they do that? Who would they reach out to?
Well, they can reach out to us through our Facebook page at Williamsport Area Little League. They can send us an email at info@williamsportlittleLeague.com. Or you could send me an email directly at president@williamsportlittleLeague.com. And if I can't answer any question or get you going, I can put you in contact with whoever the head of that division that could help you out and put you to you.
Last question for you then, and then I promise everybody I'm done. Do you guys have a date in mind, like a kickoff date that you're thinking that you're going to get in there and start doing a lot of the fixing up work?
The major part of it, I mean, we're going to start in there doing as much as we can as soon as we can. We were able to raise a little bit of funding through Raise the Region, which helped us get kicked off, and we're obviously kicking off fundraisers as we go throughout the year. But we really don't have a date as of yet, because we're still in the planning stage, to where we know about the amount that we're expecting, that we're looking at. We know what we want to do, and we're, you know, looking at the resources that could help us do it, to have them come out and start giving us a full-blown plan on it.
Thank you.
Other comments from council tonight? I agree with what's already been said, and especially I definitely go back farther than all of you. And I played Little League at Brandon when I was that age. Coached 4 kids, 2 boys and 2 girls, when they played there, and then one of my grandsons played there as well before it closed down. So you know, the park means a big deal to my family over the years, and especially the Little League area. And it just occurred to me that we have money to fix the band shell up now, and we're going to move ahead on that. The tennis court was redone. We have the nature park there now, the nature play area now, and a lot of other reconstructions going on at the park. This has to be done, because then we have, you know, everything is up to speed. Mr. Deemer.
Well, yeah, and that's one thing we're thinking about. And I have spoken and have been working with the mayor, you know, in ways that we could possibly get the city involved with this, because it is a major project that is going to benefit the city greatly.
Absolutely.
I mean, if we can get ourselves a good enough, you know, complex there for Little League, and even if we include the bigger field up there and make it just a baseball complex in general, that'll open us up to the ability to bring people in from all over the state for like state Little League playoff games, sectional Little League playoff games. There's a lot of travel ball that's popular these days after the Little League season's over that Wall is trying to get in with, and, you know, possibly get some tournaments out there, and, you know, just different ways to bring people into the city. And as Mr. Mackey had mentioned, it's in the heart of our city. So you can't get to Brandon Park without going through downtown. And once you go through downtown, you can't go through downtown with stopping and getting some food, you know? So we definitely, I've been all over the mayor about this, and I don't see myself stopping for at least however long his term lasts. So we definitely are excited about this, and it sounds like all you guys are. And I thank you all for the kind words. Our board is absolutely amazing. And the people we have on there right now are dedicated, they are enthusiastic, and every single one of them wants to see these fields back up and running, just like everybody here on this call.
And the other nice piece, the majority of the board, I believe, lives in the city, which is another plus for us.
If I'm not mistaken, yeah, they all may live in the city, to be honest with you. And most of us right around Brandon Park. Actually, most of us could ride a bike to Brandon Park, and we want to hear the sound of bats cracking and people cheering again.
Well said. Thank you, everyone, for chiming in. And if there are no other comments, Mrs. Frank, on the motion, please.
Mr. Yoder,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Allison.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Mrs. Frank. And thank you, Mr. Deemer. Thank you, Mayor Slaughter, and everyone on council for.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good night. Let's move down to item 10 then. Would you read that in short form, please, Mrs. Frank?
Resolution to adopt WBT, better known as River Valley Transit operating budget for 2021 through 2022.
Thank you, Mrs. Frank. Is there a motion in the second, council?
So move.
Second.
There's a motion in the second. Thank you. Mr. Winder, welcome again.
Good evening again. This resolution is to adopt the River Valley Transit 2021-2022 operating budget in the amount of $8,827,832. This budget entails multiple different things. I'll run through the categories quickly. Operators' salaries and wages, other operating absences, fringe benefits, services, which include $75,000 paid to the city of Williamsport for payroll and check processing, auditing services, building repairs and maintenance costs, service contracts, which include software maintenance, cleaning services, legal services, training and safety costs, trade and transit service contracts, port elevator, window cleaning, the alarm systems, Humphrey Pest Control, utilities, includes advertising expense, Ride guides, Facebook blast, backyard broadcasting, Sun Gazette, iHeartMedia, bonus bucks. Fuels and lubricants includes motor fuel, both diesel and CNG, as well as oil and grease items. Tires and tubes. Other materials and supplies includes supplies and materials for RVT, Trade and Transit Center, including office supplies, Clarkson Chemicals, Susquehanna Paper, copy paper, majority of cost, bus-related repairs and or parts, utilities, telephone, heat, PP&L, etc., casual and liability cost, fleet insurance, there's miscellaneous expenses, paratransit. This is the agreement we have with STEP, where we're charged $25 per trip with a $4 ADA reimbursement. Planning expenses, which includes a portion of salaries based on planning meetings as well as travel expenses. The Peter Herdick Transportation Museum is no longer in this budget. Revenue is fare box revenue, which unfortunately is currently down to COVID-19. Organization paid fees, Unique Industries, UPMC, Little League. If we're lucky, Hope Enterprise will come back. And we're always looking at potentially adding more organizations. Non-fixed route, $4 a trip per step. Advertising revenue and charters. For the charters, we do have a lease agreement with Susquehanna Trailways. Non-subsidy is the federal non-eligible revenue, the CNG public station, the fuel rebate, reimbursements from the parking authority. And that covers it. I do have the RVT team as well as Jill Nagy with us if you all have any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Winder, and welcome, Ms. Nagy, tonight. Good to see you here.
Thanks.
This was reviewed in findings.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yes, it was, Mr. Allison, and forwarded with a positive recommendation. However, we had kind of a robust discussion regarding this item, and actually, hey, Mr. Yoder, I've given you no forewarning about this, but do you actually want to discuss some of the comments that you made at Tuesday's finance meeting?
Yeah, I'm happy to. I kind of hogged up the conversation in relation to this item, so certainly happy to.
I didn't want to misrepresent you, so yeah.
Very much appreciated. No worries. Yeah, we had a pretty robust discussion about a lot of items surrounding River Valley Transit in general, a lot of which I think stem from a lot of our conversations in the November budget work sessions that we were asking. Regionalization, funding updates on the COVID-19 CARES Act funding and the status of some of the other operating grants that are out there, new routes, time studies, and what have you. One of the biggest takeaways that I had found was this Act 44 strategic performance review process. It's done every 5 years. Took a little bit of time to kind of investigate it myself. And it's actually a pretty interesting process. And the results of that are actually very, very interesting. And I would actually recommend that all of council take some time to look at the 2016 report. If I'm not mistaken, Mr. Winder, I believe we're going to be getting some information from the 2021 report here over the month of May. And I think that report is going to answer a lot of, I think, the questions that were brought up within that discussion. It's online, and I'm happy to forward the link to everybody here as well, but there's some really good information. A couple of, I think, the, big sticking points that I at least had asked about were a couple of different things that I am happy to go into some detail in, if that's okay. One, we did have a discussion about having specifically a more robust budget moving forward. This is a decent starting point, but it's really hard to understand the intricacies of what's going on and what have you on one page. And a prime example is if you look at that 2016 Act 44 performance review, there's a lot of information and goals and objectives that are in there related to performance standards for ridership, operational expenses, and what have you. And having a more thoroughly prepared, detailed budget would allow us as council and the administration to adequately manage and ensure we're progressing in the right direction in relation to that. And so I certainly will be looking forward to, at least myself, looking forward to a much more thoroughly prepared budget in the future. There was a little bit of discussion as well, and even since finance, regarding the resolution versus ordinance. We as a third class optional charter city, we always pass our annual budget by ordinance. That's mandated in the charter law. It's a little quirky with River Valley Transit because they operate on a different fiscal year. So, the question arises of, are we in some kind of do we need to do this by ordinance or resolution? Legally, I think we're okay from talking with our solicitors, but I do think in the spirit of the optional charter law in the future, this needs to be a resolution. And frankly, for a couple of different reasons. Number one, just making sure we're following the spirit of how we need to operate as a city. But more importantly, I just think that multi-week process really allows us more time to get into the weeds. I think will drive more discussion that needs to happen. So as Liz had mentioned, this was forwarded with a full or a positive recommendation. I forwarded it with a full recommendation as well. I do think these specific points, though, are very important. I've been thinking a little bit about that since Tuesday. And I do think just to reinforce the importance of, I think, those two specific things, I will probably be voting no, simply to just reinforce and stress the importance that we need to get this right moving forward. But nonetheless, it's aside from that, it's in front of us. So that was long-winded, sorry, but I think covers a lot of the synopsis of the conversation we had in finance.
Yes, I think you did a good job there, Mr. Yoder. I think the one thing, Mr. Allison, I might add one thing was that we discussed the idea of adding a narrative to this budget as an explanatory piece. And also, I mean, as Adam acknowledged, there's a lot of transition right now within the RBT budget. And when that shakes out, I think we really, all of us as council people and as an administration, need to get an update on the new structure and exactly what it's going to look like moving forward. So that we have a better understanding of where to expect to see X, Y, and Z, and what will be shifting out of RBT's budget into the city's budget, et cetera. So, I think I will vote yes on this item, but I understand Councilman Yoder's reasoning. I will vote yes on this item, but I would say that we all know that this is an area that needs to be addressed, and that we as council and as an administration need to come to a better understanding moving forward. Thank you, Randy.
Thank you, Councilwoman Nealon and Councilman Yoder. Councilwoman Katz.
Yes, after our discussion on Tuesday and going through over this again and looking at the budget sheet itself, we do need more of a narrative of what's going on here. And I did start looking into the Act 44 section, and there's so many things that could be. Liz, could you mute, please? There's so many things that we can cover for us who are considered. We are in we're the Board of Transportation. So therefore, it's up to us to look at all the nooks and crannies of what's going on in their budget. And yes, this is one of the first times that we are really, as council, getting to look at some of these factors. And I really, in a way, I was a little bit disappointed with the budget. I mean, how many people get a budget for $8 million on one sheet of paper? I mean, it doesn't break down what everything is. And to me, this was, there needed to be more involved here. And I know what's going on. I know there are a lot of new people. There are a lot of new things that are going on in River Valley. But we do have to start, and we do have to make sure that we start doing things correctly from the get-go. And a budget is very important, as we all know. And to me, this should have been taken more thoroughly as far as breaking everything down for us. Because in the past, we have not seen all of these factors. And because we're also breaking down different entities that never were broken down before, we have to know where everything is going to go. So, even though I voted, to pass this on with a positive recommendation, I really have second thoughts about this. I really do. And truthfully, I'm still thinking.
Thank you, Councilwoman Katz. Other council members care to weigh in? Like to ask Jill Nagy to weigh in on a couple of these issues. Tonight, part of what we're doing, and maybe the main part, that let me preface this by saying the mayor and I had an opportunity to be part of the Act 44 interview the other day on the governance part and the part that we play or will play. We really haven't been allowed to involve ourselves as a council in the governance to the depth that everybody's talking about. So this is going to be something new for us. I don't think it's going to be something we're going to have to grasp because from speaking with PennDOT, they're saying the ball's in our lap, the administration and council, to come up with the kind of models we're talking about that are going to be more responsive information-wise to the things we're bringing up. But we did have an email back and forth today, and I just wondered if Ms. Nagy could address one of the important things we're doing tonight. And every across the Commonwealth, different transportation systems are dealing with the local match and certifying that, and essentially that's the most important thing we're doing tonight. Would you care to speak to that?
Sure. From a standpoint of city expenditures, the local match is the most critical thing, which is the first resolution that matches your Act 89 funds. A lot of that budget that you have is all grant driven, except for the local match, which will be coming from either PennDOT or FTA. So those funds are restricted to transit. So to your point, Randy, that's the most critical factor, because in order to get your grant allocation from PennDOT, that local match must be certified. It doesn't have to be paid right now, but it must be certified that the funds are available. If something would happen to Mr. Yoder's question earlier on the ordinance, and certainly Adam has conveyed all these issues to me so that we can be prepared next year to do it by ordinance. You've adopted your budget, that stays the same. If there has to be an adjustment to River Valley, you have the opportunity to do that in December when it comes to the local match. But PennDOT would at least like to see this commitment now so that you can get your grant allocation for the 2021-2022 fiscal year. And that's just a function of that's how they do their fiscal year. So there's nothing much we can do about that except for certify the local match in the budget. I did hear the concerns that you all raised about the Act 44 performance standards. I wholeheartedly agree. Most of the other boards sit there for an entire day and work through this with PennDOT. That had never happened before with River Valley. We started giving City Council some training last year in August when myself and Mike Knoll were up there. I think there's a lot of more room for that, especially when you get your Act 44 responses done, Mr. Yoder. I think we should all go through them as a board and see where there's room to move, discuss if we want a strategic plan. Probably, if I was a betting person, and this is something council can discuss, to my knowledge, you've never had a transit development plan. Usually when there's findings, you do that type of plan. It's quite likely that will be in the new legislation next year to receive your funding. So I think that, after you get this performance review, that's something we should really have a discussion with council. Do you want a transit development plan? Because that's going to answer all those questions done by a consultant. And PennDOT has a list of consultants that are acceptable to do those plans. So I think this is all coming to a head. You started your training last year and it will continue, but I think that's what we have to look at and sit down maybe as a workshop and go through that performance review to give some peace of mind and to get some benchmarks that council wants to see as well.
And actually, one of the consultants, eConsult, who council just approved 2 weeks ago to do our financial strategic plan, is currently working with Deputy Secretary Granger and PennDOT statewide. So that could be an option that we can explore, the administration and council, if that's a direction we so choose. eConsult is obviously working with City of Williamsport right now, and possibly, obviously, I'm just throwing it out there. It could be something for us to think about down the road if we want to, since they're already familiar with PennDOT and transit, have them do something or someone else. But anyways, I agree with that. I'm just saying I'm in agreement, and we currently have a eConsult who also is familiar with PennDOT as well. So that's could be, two birds with one stone, possibly.
Thank you, Mayor Slaughter. Thank you, Ms. Nagy. Other questions or comments from council? Okay. Hearing and seeing none. On the motion, please, Mrs. Frank.
Mr. Yoder,
No.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Excuse me, Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
No,
Ms. Mealy,
You're muted, Liz.
Mr. Allison.
Yes, Randy.
Thank you. And I'm a yes. Thank you. Motion passes 4-2. So we'll get our funding from PennDOT and in our federal funding. Mrs. Katz.
yeah, I didn't want to do anything to obstruct the funding. I just want to make sure that everybody is going to be on the same page. And since we're the transportation board, I wanted to see a better budget. I really did, as far as breaking things down and, and following things more clear. I wasn't voting no for the grants. I was voting no for, I guess what you can say is the paperwork.
I understand completely. I think we all have the same frustrations. I think it just comes down to the fact of the matter. If this hadn't passed, we didn't certify our local match, and it jeopardizes the funding. So that's all. But we all want to see, I'm 100% agreement, what we want to see come out of this. Okay, thank you, Mr. Winder. Thank you, Ms. Nagy. And I can't tell who all's there with you, Adam, but thank you. Good job. Okay, let's go to item 8 then. Mrs. Franken, short form, please.
Resolution authorizing the sale of a 1997 Tarrant leaf machine.
Yes, I'm sorry. No, item 8.
Resolution awarding construction services
Yes.
for City Hall and ramp project to Lanzery Incorporated.
Thank you, Mrs. Frank. Is there a motion in a second?
So move.
Second.
There is a motion in a second. Mr. Stander.
Yes. Hi, good evening, everyone. Yeah, this resolution is for the construction of a precast ADA accessible ramp on the north face of City Hall. We had 5 bidders on the project. And I just lost the thing I was going to read. 5 bidders on the project. They award Landserv, GM McCrossin, Lundy, Turnkey, and Greenland. I already read the bids publicly twice during the Tuesday meetings, so I'll just read. Landserv was the low bidder at $164,516. With the project, there is a water line to City Hall needs replaced, and a little bit of a sewer lateral work. There were some optional items, cast iron railing and stone veneer that the low bidder, Landserv did not, well, they provided a cost on the railing, but not the veneer. This ramp is exactly per the design from 2 years ago from Gannett Fleming. It meets all current ADA standards. And on the back side of, after the ramp is constructed, will require signed and sealed as-built drawings from a registered architect or engineer in the state of PA. This was reviewed in finance and in public works. Any questions?
It was reviewed in finance and public works. Mrs. Katz, public works. Let's go to that first.
I think in both finance and public works, we had a spirited conversation on the ramp.
Great.
First of all, this was passed with a positive recommendation. We're all thrilled with how this is going to, come to fruition quicker than all of us anticipated. Not only coming to fruition, but also at half the cost probably. We are looking for some add-ons, okay? We do know that we're looking at a veneer to go on to look to compensate and look complement what City Hall and the ramp will look like. That's one of the things that we'll probably be adding on, but we don't have a cost factor with that. And John said he will get to us as soon as he finds out what that cost factor would be. We also are, it's going to take, they're going to build this ramp at the factory, which will take about 3 weeks, if I'm correct, John, right?
That's correct.
And
Yes.
and to also then to put the ramp up, because it is forms, it will probably take about a week to 10 days. Before that's done, though, there is some plumbing issues that have to be done through the water authority, and also for the city, and also some paving that has to be done also. We also discussed both at finance and public works as far as what the landscaping is going to look like and if there's going to be lighting. Now, these are things that will come in afterwards. This bid was strictly on the ramp itself and the railing. The other thing that we discussed, which will be the next bidding process, is the elevator and the doors. We're going to, the doors are going to be vitally important to the ramp. Once the ramp is done, we really need the push button doors at the top of City Hall, on top of the steps. So that's another conversation that we had, and that's going to go, like I said, through the bidding process with the elevator. We're all, excited that John was able to come up with such a fantastic price. He did look at different avenues, and this is, like I said, less than what we anticipated 2-3 years ago. So we should have this accomplished, and John is adamant that this is going to be done before November. So let's keep our fingers crossed that we all know where construction is going right now, and everybody's keeping their fingers crossed with everything that has to do with construction, when everybody's looking for all the components to go bring everything together. And like I said, this was passed with a positive recommendation.
Thank you, Mrs. Katz. That was a really good synopsis of the discussion, which I did sit in on the other day. Councilwoman Mealy, I'm going to go to finance, and then I'll go to you, Councilman Polizzi, so we can tie the funding and everything into the project. Councilwoman Mealy, it was reviewed in finance as well.
Yes, this was reviewed in finance and forwarded once again with a positive recommendation. Mrs. Katz really did a good job summing the situation up. A lot of our discussion involved kind of concerns about the timing and when all of these items were going to sort of be functional, concerns about whether or not the ramp and the doors would be timed at the same point. But I think the most important thing to remember, as Mr. Sanders said, is we have a November deadline to complete this work. We're obviously in good shape to meet that deadline and in fact do significantly better than it. If all of the items are not in place simultaneously, of course that's somewhat unfortunate, but perhaps not surprising in a job of this scope that involves a number of different sorts of contracts. That is to say that this is primarily masonry, the contract that we're executing today. But we will, but then we'll have kind of electrical slash digital elements with the doors and the elevators. All of that said, the one other discussion that we had in finance was this contractor that with whom we're executing a contract did not have a bid for the stone veneer portion, but part of the discussion in finance revolved around the financial question of whether or not the city should invest in pursuing stone veneer on the ramp. And I think the general feeling from the finance committee, at least, was that veneer was a worthwhile option to pursue because we obviously ask a lot of our historic structures within the city to keep in mind their place within the community and to maintain their historicity. And when we put a ramp on the front of our structure on West 4th Street, I think we have to bear most of the same concerns in mind. We have a beautiful historic structure that is an asset to the city of Williamsport. And to try and make it sort of mesh with the rest of the building and be in harmony with the architecture of the rest of the building, I think would be a wise idea. Mr. Sander had said that he would approach the contractor to see if they could provide us with a bid for veneer as well. And then we discussed the other things that, of course, will help this ramp look more of a piece with the existing city hall structure, such as quality landscaping, unobtrusive lighting, all of those elements that make a finished product. Obviously, all of those concepts are not yet in place, but this is an exciting first step. And particularly exciting, Mr. Sander is making this happen so quickly, especially in a year when the cost of building materials seems to be escalating to higher and higher heights every day. Mr. Winder, I know, particularly mentioned that it would be wise for us to execute this as quickly as possible so that we could, we didn't see the cost of materials rise anymore. That said, we did forward this to the full body of council with positive recommendation. Thanks, Randy.
Thank you, Councilwoman Neely. Mr. Palivi.
Thank you, President Allison. No, all I did was I wanted to mirror Councilwoman Katz's feelings and thoughts. And I also just wanted to say how happy I am to see this come in exactly where it is and the amount of savings that we're actually able to realize with this ramp project, and just commend Mr. Sander on the great work that he's been doing so far. So thank you very much, John.
Thank you, Vince.
Other comments from the council members? Mr. Yoder?
I have a comment, Mr. Allison, if I can. This is
Yes.
Joe Girardi. One thing, though, that council and the mayor need to also understand is that the ADA compliant ramp railings are going to be required, and the door needs to be modified, and there will be some electrical lighting required to make it fully compliant. And you can't really issue a CO until it's fully compliant. So John will probably be coming back for some estimates on doors and that type of thing, and lighting. Because like I said, if you're open at nighttime, you have to have an X amount of light to come up the stairs. So it's ADA compliant.
Hey, Joe, just to clarify on that, Joe, if you don't mind.
Sure, John,
right
no
now,
problem.
yeah, no problem. Right now, the elevator contract, which includes the elevator, all of its components, and all related electrical work, has the door components in it. We have bids coming in 2 weeks for that. I was looking to put the doors up first and foremost on the contractor's list to do not only the door itself, but the electrical connections and the ADA push button bollard with button on it as well. So, and then in addition to that, Adam had indicated to me that landscaping and lighting could be done in-house with the streets and parks folks there.
Right. Excellent.
Great.
Excellent job, John. Excellent.
Mr. Sander, I just want to commend you for the speed and the preciseness that you've shown to get this together quickly, which was paramount due to the consent decree. And the dollar amount is substantially lower than we were initially going to have to put out. And do you have an estimate, a round figure, maybe you don't, for the whole project at this point?
I do not. First, I'd just like to kind of thank the original designer was Gannett Fleming. So, a lot of credit should go to them. We were talking about this the other day in Public Works. No, excuse me, it was Finance. And last go around, the elevator and all of its components came in at about 400,000. That's what I think that's what Chris Cooley said. So with this and the elevator, we're talking 5 and change.
And then the doors.
Well, yeah, but the doors are incorporated into the elevator project.
Okay, you're talking the elevator project included.
Yeah.
Okay, and
And we have a meeting on site with interested contractors next week, and that's scheduled. And then the following week, the bids come in.
So the point I'm getting at is 3 years ago, I think it was 3 years ago, it was a $900,000 project approaching $1 million. There's 3 of us on here still on council that did not vote for that project because we had concerns about the dollar amount and that it was too high. And I just think, this isn't like a victory dance or anything. I just think that this proves that we did have valid concerns at the time about the money and the costs, and the fact that we're here 3 years later and it's going to be done for a few $100,000 less, and it's still going to be a fine, really good product that's put out. So I just want to put that out there because there was kind of a stigma from before because we voted it down. And, I understand all the different competing factors there are, but it turned out pretty well as far as for the taxpayers. And I think it's going to be a great addition for those with a disability or any kind of problem entering. It's going to be, and getting to different places within City Hall. So I think we can all be happy about that as well. If there are no other comments,
Thank you, Randy.
you're welcome. If there's no other comments on the motion, please, Mrs. Frank.
Mr. Yoder,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes,
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Allison.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Mrs. Frank. We'll move to item 9. Would you read that in short form, please, Mrs. Frank?
Resolution authorizing the sale of a 1997 Tarrant leaf machine.
Thank you, Mrs. Frank. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Winder.
This is a resolution authorizing the sale of a 1997 Tarrant leaf machine from the city of Williamsport to Castania Township in the amount of $1,500. It is the same as the last one we brought forward. The only difference is this one is a lot smaller machine, and $1,500 is definitely more than what we'd receive on municipal bid. This was reviewed before finance and passed with a positive recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Winder. This was reviewed in finance. Councilwoman Neely.
Yep, President Ellison, this was reviewed in finance. There is not a whole lot to say about it. It certainly seems to be a decent amount of money for a piece of machinery that's been with us for close to 25 years now. I think we were pleased to receive, what we did for it. So finance forwarded full body of council with a positive recommendation.
Thank you, Councilwoman Neely. Are there other comments from finance or anybody? Hearing and seeing none, Mrs. Frank on the motion, please.
Mr. Yoder,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
yes,
Ms. Mealy, Liz,
Yes.
Mr. Allison.
Yes, Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Mrs. Frank. We will move down to item 11 then. Would you read that in short form, please, Mrs. Frank?
Resolution certifying the local match for state operating financial assistance.
Thank you, Mrs. Frank. Is there a motion in second?
So move.
Second.
There's a motion in second. Mr. Winder, you're up again.
This resolution is to certify the local match for the operating financial assistance. The operating financial assistance is $4,642,549 for fiscal year 2020, 2022. The match required would be $447,514. This match is distributed out to multiple local municipalities that receive service from River Valley Transit, not just the city of Williamsport. This was reviewed in finance and passed with a positive recommendation. And as I said before, we have the team at RVT here as well, Jill Nagy, if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you. It was reviewed in finance, Councilwoman Neely.
Randy, I apologize. Can Adam Yoder, could you take this item over for me? Are you available?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, so this
Thank
was,
you.
yeah, no problem. Yeah, this was reviewed in finance, forward with a positive recommendation. You know, we get this every year. You know, I don't really remember having very much discussion or concerns with this. As Jill had previously mentioned, you know, this is in line with a lot of the state funding we get, and we really need to do it. You know, I did look back at last year's. It is a little bit higher, and I had initially had a little bit of concern about that. But if you go back and look at the again, to tie this all together, the Act 44 performance review, I mean, that's not uncommon at all. They had referenced that would continually increase. So there's no real concern about that. And like I said, this was forward with a full positive recommendation. The only additional question that I would at least ask is to get a breakout of where all that local match is coming from. I know that obviously the city contributes some of that, but I believe that amount is spread between all of our local partners. So it would be good to get a breakout of that tomorrow if we could get it, just to understand all of that. But aside from that, that's about it.
Thank you, Mr. Yoder. Other comments or questions? Or did you have a question? Councilwoman Neely?
Well, the only thing I was going to say, Randy, is that as I think we covered, the funding from our local partners is increasing this year. As much as it's in the past, I believe Mr. Winder told us that the funding came, when the funding increased, it came out of RVT, but now it's increasing kind of across the board for all of our local partners, which I think is an exciting step in terms of sharing the cost of a quality transit system in our area. Thank you.
And Mr. Winder, correct me if I'm wrong, is that format going to change where it's not going to, we're not going to be the center of that, each municipality? Okay.
Correct. So in the past, the city of Williamsport paid the full local match, and then the municipalities paid the city of Williamsport back. That is not going to be the case this year. This year, the city of Williamsport will get its own invoice for its local match. All their municipalities will be responsible for paying RVT for their local match. The local match, as Mr. Yoder touched on, will go up 5% per year until we hit the cap of the 15%. And if you look through your packet, the local match is actually identified in a letter from PennDOT itself. It's not something that we decide here.
Yes, you see that.
Just to help with understanding how the local match works, it is based upon mileage and ridership.
Mhm.
Moving forward. So, we have to do a lot of analysis moving forward to make sure that everybody's being charged the correct local match over the course of this year.
Mhm. Good, thank you, Mr. Winder. Other comments or questions on this from council members? Hearing and seeing none, Mrs. Frank, on the motion, please.
Mr. Yoder,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Mrs. Frank. We'll move to item 12. Would you read that in short form, please, Mrs. Frank?
resolution authorizing the purchase of a rolling service door to be installed at the River Valley Transit Bus Garage.
And keeping with form here, Mr. Winder, you're up again. Oh, is there a motion in a second? I'm sorry.
So
So
moved.
move.
Second.
Second.
Now, Ms.
Take your pick, Janice.
Okay, this resolution is to authorize the purchase of a rolling service door to be installed at River Valley Transit Bus Garage. Currently, if you look at the front of River Valley Transit, you see the 3 bay doors there. That is the large part of the RVT that houses all of the buses. The bay door furthest west is inoperable at this point. The cost of repairs would be very close to the cost of replacement due to the electronics of it. It is an automatic garage door that once the bus goes to leave the building, it automatically rolls up. It does hinder the process of getting buses out currently because in order to get the buses out of those 2 lanes that door covers, the driver has to back the bus up through the bus bay to make it out a different door. Depending on what time of day, it can be very challenging due to there being so many buses back in the bus bay. The award for the garage door would go to North Central Garage Door Incorporated. They are located in Linden, PA, to the amount of $30,635. We did get all the possible quotes we could. They were the lowest. This was part of our CCA grant this year. So the funding is all in place. And you guys did approve the CCA earlier this year. I do have Chris Clark with me. He's the facility maintenance supervisor. And we can answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Winder. This was also reviewed in finance.
Yes, sorry.
It was indeed. And Mr. Winder, just a point of clarification from my understanding. I thought that I had understood during our meeting on Tuesday that that this item was originally rejected as part of our CCA funding. But then, pardon me?
Yes, I'm sorry. You're correct. We added this after the fact.
Okay. Yeah. So finance forwarded this to the full body of council with positive recommendation, President Allison. But I think this item comes to us as an emergency item because the funding for it had previously been rejected by the CCA in this year's round. However, when the door became inoperable, RVT went back, and this is additional funding we are in receipt of. That is to say, there is not something else within RVT's budget this year that will not be funded due to this emergency repair that has to happen due to our relationship with the state in terms of transit funding. We simply receive more. We have simply received more funding in this case. And given that, especially, this item comes from the full body to the full body of City Council with a positive recommendation from the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Councilwoman Mealy, for that clarification. Any comments from other Finance Committee members or anybody? I think it's a garage door. We need one. Hearing none, Mrs. Frank, On the motion, please.
Mr. Yoder,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Allison.
Yes. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Mrs. Frank. We'll move to item 13, and would you read that in short form, please, Mrs. Frank?
A resolution authorizing the donation of the former Philadelphia Rapid Transit open trolley car.
Thank you, Mrs. Frank. Is there a motion and a second from council?
So move.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Mr. Winder, your final one.
This resolution is to donate the former Philadelphia Rapid Open Air Trolley Car. We're estimating it's from the early 1900s to the Jersey Shore Historical Society. This trolley car, no one probably ever really noticed because it was sitting behind the trees at the Peter Herdick Museum, covered in a tarp. It is, in my opinion, really bad shape. I don't think it's something that the city or River Valley Transit are able to fund to restore due to the excessive cost. The Jersey Shore Historical Society heard about it, reached out to us, and would like to basically take it off our hands, restore it, and put it on display for everybody to see. There is a picture included in your packet with this. As you can see, it is pretty well deteriorated. This was taken before Public Works and passed with a positive recommendation.
Councilwoman Katz.
Yes, this did come to Public Works. It was passed with a positive recommendation. I think we're all very happy that Jersey Shore Historical Society is going to take this project on. When you look at what this trolley looks like, we've got to give them a lot of credit because we're talking down to the skin and bones here. And it is, I'm happy that there are people out there that are still respecting our history. And this is part of the history of a trolley. And I think it's, I think people are going to appreciate this eventually, that there are historical societies that do take these projects on. This is going to cost them a lot of money, and I'm sure they're going to try and get funding for it. And we should be pleased that it's going into a new home at this point. Other than that, like I said, it was passed with a positive recommendation.
Thank you, Councilwoman Katz. Comments from anybody else on council? Okay, hearing none. Mrs. Franklin, motion, please.
Mr. Yoder,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Allison.
Yes. Thank you, Mrs. Frank. Motion passes 6-0. We'll move to item 15, certificate of appropriateness for Harb. Items that were reviewed by the Historical Architectural Review Board. Item 2 is Ralph Caringi, 433 West Edmund Street, and there's a number of items. I count about 9 things going to be done at that structure. It looks like it's a double. Item 3 is Richard and Terry Muchler, 1072 Vine Ave, and they're doing some repairs to that particular building, some painting and so forth. One item was pulled from the agenda, and then item 5, the YWCA 815 West 4th Street is installing a light pole with flag and a double-sided sign. Is there a motion and a second from council on these issues?
So move.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion from council members on any of these? Hearing none, Mrs. Franklin, motion, please.
Mr. Yoder,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Allison.
Yes. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Mrs. Frank. We'll move to item 16, except for filing. Public Works minutes of March 31st, 2021 and April 13th, 2021, and minutes for the Veterans Memorial Park Commission, which is, we just heard from tonight, March 1st, 2021. Is there a motion and a second from council?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any comments or corrections to these minutes? Hearing and seeing none, Mrs. Frank, on the motion, please.
Mr. Yoder,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes.
Mr. Pelisi,
Yes.
Mrs. Katz,
Yes.
Ms. Mealy,
Yes.
Mr. Allison.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Mrs. Frank. Item 17 brings us to our announcements. The next regularly scheduled city council meeting will be held on Thursday, May 13th, 2021, 7 p.m., and we'll be meeting remotely. Upcoming meetings, Friday, April 30th, which is tomorrow, 11 a.m. ERC, and they do have an agenda. Monday, May 3rd at noon is the Planning Commission. Thursday, May 6th, 3 p.m., Accessibility Advisory Commission. Tuesday, May, is that May 6th as well?
Nope, that's May 11th.
Oh, May 11th. Tuesday, May 11th, 11:30 a.m. Public Safety, 1 p.m. Finance, and 2:30 p.m. Public Works. Wednesday, May 12th, 3:30, the O&E Pension Board, and Thursday, May 13th at 10:30 a.m. is the Zoning Hearing Board. And that's the list of meetings that we have upcoming. Are there any comments from council members tonight? Mr. Pelisi and Mrs. Katz. I think I saw you both at the same time, so
Go ahead, Bonnie.
flip a coin.
I just wanted to welcome everybody to be downtown Saturday for First Saturday, this Saturday. It's going to be the first one in well over a year. We're all looking forward to it. And also to remember that the following week is First Friday, and want everybody to come down and enjoy everything that's going on downtown for a change.
Yes, and it's going to be nice weather too, so get out and get down there. Mr. Pelisi.
No, I just already, I looked through some paperwork and I answered my own question already, so no worries.
You're fast, buddy. Anybody else on council have anything? The administration, any comments or announcements? Hearing none there. Are there any comments from the public tonight?
There were none. There were none.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lubin. Hearing that then, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move.
Move.
Second.
There's a move in the second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? And we are adjourned. Good meeting tonight. Thank you, everybody.
Have a
Thanks,
good night,
everyone.
everybody. Thank
Good
you.
seeing everybody.
Yes,
Thank you, Jill.
take care.
Bye,
Good
Joe.
night, everyone.
Bye.
Hi, Jill.